Imagine yourself driving down a lonely country road at night. You're alone, with only the car radio and the dashboard lights for company. As you round a bend in the road, in the blackness, you see a solitary figure standing there, thumbing for a ride. Do you stop and offer a lift? Or do you pass the traveller by and continue on your way? Maybe you think that someday you might be in the same situation yourself and decide against your better judgment to stop and help out. The following are two eerie hitchhiker stories that took place in the UK. Almost 40 years ago, a young tradesman from Bedfordshire, England, decided he would play the Good Samaritan and pick up a stranded traveller. It was to prove to be one of the most chilling encounters he would ever have. Late in the evening of the 12th of October 1979, a 26-year-old carpet fitter, Roy Fulton, from the town of Dunstable, was returning home from the pub from a nearby town when he stopped to give a lift to a young man standing on an isolated stretch of the road.
Carpet fitter Roy Fulton thought he knew what to expect on the byways of Bedfordshire. But there's one journey he'll never do again in the dark. He was driving home on the deserted road from Stanbridge to Tottenham when the headlights of his van picked out a lonely hitchhiker.
There was a figure thumbing a lift on a street light down here on the left hand side. I'll stop just down here and let you see where it is. So we're there now. I thought myself he could either be going to Tottenham or Dunstable. So I thought myself I'd give the lad a lift. He actually walked back into the headlights of the van. He opened the van door, he got in, sat down. I asked him where he wanted to go, and all he said was, well, he never said a word, he just pointed up the road. I started the van up, drove off, never made no conversation. It was just about now I leant forward, picked up the packet of cigarettes. In fact, it was just about here. Turned round to offer the lad one, and that man or boy was not sitting there. And, well, I just frightened the life out of me. I turned round and had a look in the back, and I realised that he wasn't in there, because by this time I had switched the interior light on. And by this time I was just sort of panicking. And I just put it in first gear and I went like a bat out of hell.
And the sanctuary he headed for was his local pub, the Glider. Landlord Bill Stone remembers Fulton coming in, shaking and white as a sheet.
He said to me, give us a large Scotch quick. I said, wait, have you seen a ghost or what? He said, yeah, I have. I've seen a ghost. I said, don't be silly. He said, I've seen a ghost.
He insisted that we had to go down the police station because he thought if anybody had got hurt or whatever it was, you know, he'd rather find out about it then, you know, than another day. And, I mean, when we got home, it was still on his mind, and in fact, we slept with all the lights on because he was so convinced that it would, I don't know why, that it would come home, follow him home.
There's obviously someone got in that motor, and I do not for note to this day what it was.
The next story is from a news article from 2015. Two friends are convinced a phantom hitchhiker lurking at night on a narrow country lane was the ghost of a dead Royal Air Force pilot. Rob Davies and Chris Felton spotted the ghostly figure of a man trying to wave them down on the side of the road near Bolsey in Northumberland. The pair claimed the man was dressed in RAF gear as he emerged late at night, and they have since discovered that where he stood is close to where an Air Force jet crashed during the Second World War. The pair had been out recording a piece on the anniversary of a medieval battle when they inadvertently spotted the hitchhiker. Davies, one of the men in the car, states, We saw a man standing on the side of the road. We both actually jumped at first because we didn't see him until very late. He was dressed in a beige colour from head to toe. He was sticking his arm out for a lift, but we could not stop in time due to being at 60 miles an hour. Davies also claimed the man's eyes did not reflect the car's lights. They both agreed that they would turn the car around for the man. Davies states, "We said we would pick him up if he was real and just make sure he was dropped to the nearest village, and joked he might be a phantom hitchhiker." I started filming on my iPhone as it all seemed a bit odd. We couldn't remember how far back he was, but we saw him again and slowed. He was dressed in what I can only describe as RAF gear and was holding something under his arm, which looked like a helmet or some kind of bag. We then had to turn around so we could pick him up from the other side of the road. It was only seconds and no other car had been passed, but when we turned around he was gone. We continued driving and there was nobody walking on either side of the road. The only explanation that we could come up with was that he walked off into the darkness of the fields. Davies did some research and has since found out about a crash near where the man was standing, which happened during a training exercise in 1943. The crash happened in a field at Middleton Farm, which is the field behind where he was. What really happened on that night? Was it just a hitchhiker trying to get a lift home? Or was it something else? Something old?